cloud. There we go. So what we did last time, didn't we? Got people to raise the hand if people wanted to ask questions, start off with a question. And then I went around. I don't know if should we do it like that again, Michael, or do you want to?
Sure.
Do it first?
I think that's perfect. And we do have a question on the floor, so we can just go right into that one. I'll repeat it and we'll answer that one.
Okay.
Okay. So the core of the forgiveness process in the first century Aramaic language is the recognition that perception is a construct of the mind. We don't see with our eyes. The eye is a one-way valve. Information comes in. You can't see out of the antenna. It's literally an antenna. It brings in frequencies of light, and light carries information. The information causes brain cells to fire, and the brain produces a construct called perception. Literally, the world we think we see through our eyes is generated by our brain. We see with our brain. And of course, you're primarily going to do worksheets, at least in the beginning, around issues where you have some sort of pained perception, some sort of disturbance or upset. And you'll notice that you're never disturbed or upset, unless you're a generally miserable person, when everybody's doing what you want them to do. When everybody's fulfilling every goal you have for them, you're usually quite happy with them. Or yourself, when you're able to achieve all the goals that you set for yourself, you're like, yeah, this is pretty cool. You'll notice the only time you go into upset is when somebody or you yourself violate a goal that you hold. What does that mean? Why does that happen? Well, that construct of the mind is a construct that is built out of what is resonated within us. And the thing that drives the whole process, we talked in the earlier workshop about the Harvard research that shows that in a time frame where 10,000 brain cells are firing, there are 10,000 measurable units of electrical activity, the max amount of data that goes into that perceptual construct is 9 bits. Very small piece of what's going on within the mind, and an even smaller piece of what's going on in the actuality. It's been estimated in that time frame when 10,000 brain cells are firing, 9 bits of data show up in our perception, that the world at that moment, the actuality of what's going on, might be as much as 20 trillion bits of data. And we're looking at 9 bits, thinking we know what's going on up there. And the truth is, whatever shows up in here always informs us about what's going on in here far more accurately than what's going on out there. Sometimes it's accurate, but most often, your perceptual constructs are informing you about the content of your own mind. Although, if we live in denial, and somebody might want to mute, I think I hear a teaspoon in a teacup or something. So somebody is in denial, they made me mad. When I use those words, I'm telling my mind to hide the truth of the fact that this pain is caused internally and build me a construct that shows me that somebody else is the cause. And so my mind shows me that someone else is the cause of what's going on inside of me. We call that denial. Well, if I load a goal into my mind that resonates or elicits a pained response in me, I want to get to the root of that pained response. And the reason I'm blaming somebody else for it is because I've hidden the root from myself. So in the Aramaic language, the word forgive is shabag. It means to cancel. Now, I could cancel you, not very nice, that's murder. I could cancel myself, suicide, not going there. In any given situation, what is there that is really important that I can cancel? I can always cancel the goal that's driving my perception to use pain content to build this construct in my mind. So when I cancel that goal, my construct collapses, and it collapses in on itself. So if I've hidden something from myself, I don't even know it's there. When I cancel the goal, that thing collapses in, and it opens sort of a pathway into that part of what we call the unconscious. And I can start to get in touch with what's underlying my pain. When I bring what's underlying my pain forward And you notice the step before we cancel the goal in the worksheet, you bring love present. When those two things meet, that which is not based in love is transformed by the active presence of love. And we call that healing. We call that forgiveness. So that in Aramaic is forgiveness. It's got nothing to do with the Greek idea of I'm going to let you off the hook for what's happening inside of me. Now, the question was, well, so I've canceled this goal. And then in one of our last sessions, I said, yeah, and when you're finished with that, if it's a goal that you still want to achieve, you go back and reestablish it. And the question was, well, I don't understand. Why would I do that? So recognize this. You don't cancel a goal because there's anything out of place or wrong with the goal. You cancel the goal because you've recognized that when you load it in your mind, it causes your mind to use pain content to build your perception. Once you've collapsed that, once you've worked through it, and any given issue might take many, many worksheets to totally clear out. But once you've cleared something out, it's a perfectly appropriate goal. Load it in your mind, have at it, go off and create it. If it resonates pain again, there's your next worksheet. You do your next goal canceling process. But the idea here is not that we're saying there's something wrong with goals. Some people have said to me, well, does that mean I'm not supposed to have any goals? No, create your life, have all the goals you want. Know how to set them and frame them, know how to cancel them when appropriate. And if you have a goal that resonates pain for you, once you've worked through that pain, or maybe you haven't worked through it fully yet, go back and reset the goal. If somebody frustrates that goal, doesn't fulfill that goal, and pain comes up, you'll know that's the next worksheet. You go back 2,000 years ago to the man that originated this, and they said, well, how many of these darn worksheets do we have to do? How many times do I need to forgive as to my brother? In Aramaic, they said, is 7 times enough? And in Aramaic, he said, no, he said 77 times 70. Now, 0 is a number of completion, 7 is infinity, and 7 is a number of completion. So you're going to do literally an infinite number of worksheets around any given painful perceptual construct in your mind until you're finished with it. And sometimes you're going to uncover genetic influences. You're going to uncover things that you never knew happened in your bloodline, and you're going to process those out, and you'll start to realize what the root of your pain is, and your pain isn't caused from out there. So if you've got a decent, good goal and it's resonating and bringing pained perception forward, cancel it to collapse the perception, go into the underlying piece of it, bring forward what needs to be healed in the presence of love and heal it, and then go back and set the goal again. And if you've got another worksheet to do because there's still more pain to be undone, do your next worksheet. Does that make sense? Does that answer the question that you were asking?
I think that was Gina, wasn't it?
Yes, I think so. So did that get to the question you were asking?
Oh, right. Okay. No, my question was, on the video this morning, you had on the right-hand column a list of fear, despair, those sort of emotions. And then on the left, you had another list. And I didn't actually I missed that part of the video. What?
Okay. Well,
I mean,
well,
I don't know the video I'm talking about because you made many,
yes.
but.
Okay. So, but you had asked an earlier question about canceling a goal and then resetting it. That was your first question. So
yes,
that's
I did. Yes, we cancel the goal, don't we? In step 6 in the 12-step one. Oh, look at me! Right. Listen to me. And then because they're perfectly reasonable goals, and you're saying that's collapsing it into its own footprint, like 9/11. But then you said in the video this morning, it's okay to reinstate those goals. So how do you go about reinstating those goals that you've collapsed? Does that make sense? So, for example, I want my daughter to unblock me and love and accept me in whatever question, whatever. And then later on, I thereby cancel that goal.
Right.
And
so then I reset the goal in my mind for my daughter to love and unblock me.
So when do you reset that? In the last question?
Once, well, the last step in the worksheet, you're framing and setting a goal that you're going to act on about whoever you are doing the worksheet around. It might be yourself, it might be someone else. So you've completed that. But if you're complete with that particular one, you're finished with the pain of it, then what do you do? I go back and go, and I really want my daughter to open up contact. And the unblock part really doesn't work very well. You want to always be looking. You'll notice the wording is the constructive result that you want. So you always, rather than unblock, because if I say to you, don't think about the color of your car, what resonates in your mind? Something about the color of your car, right?
Exactly, yes.
So if I talk about unblocking, what resonates in the mind? The un part isn't heard. Just like don't think about, don't isn't heard there. What the body of the phrase is, the color of my car. The body of the phrase is blocking. So I always want to move when I do a goal. I want to look at the constructive result. What's the outcome I want, not the outcome I don't want. And in that case, the outcome I want would be for my daughter, open, free communication with me. That would be more like the kind of goal. There could be many variations on the theme, but that would be the essence of it.
That's nice.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
So I just reset the goal. Okay, I'm here. I'm going to set the goal for my daughter to communicate with me. And remember that the functioning purpose of the mind, once you frame and set a goal, the purpose of this mind is to take whatever data it has and show you how to accomplish that goal.
Okay, so but then, for example, say I'm doing a worksheet around my daughter again. And I've set that goal in the question, whatever, my daughter to communicate openly with me.
Right.
And allow me to see my grandchildren. Is that okay wording?
That's perfect to me.
Okay.
Yeah, the constructive result.
Yeah. And then in step 6, you then cancel that goal.
Well, let's get clear here for a minute. So you've already done the worksheet, you've canceled the goal, you've reset a goal toward her. And, at the end of that worksheet you did where you canceled the goal for her to communicate with you, your goal might be, every time I think of my daughter, I'm going to extend love to her. In the past, it's been fear, it's been hostility, it's been disapproval, whatever it was, because she blocked me. So now my new goal, my enlightened goal in the last step might be, every time I think of her, I'm going to extend love in her direction. Now, you remember the line in the worksheet that says, when I choose love, it wakes up the love in everyone. When I focus in my original essence as love, that's literally an energy. And if I actually talked about this on my radio show today, if I have two middle C tuning forks, and I hit one of them on the desk and I put it in front of the second one has no choice. This one sets up a field because they're in resonance. There's an exchange of energy and the second tuning fork starts to vibrate. That's the principle by which that when I choose love, it wakes up the love in everyone. Now, if I've been choosing anger, gee, why doesn't she communicate? Well, then I wake up the anger in her. If I choose sadness and grief, then energetically, what I'm setting up a tuning fork for is for her to experience grief, the same as I am. When I make a commitment to, every time I think of her, well, here comes this fear. Okay, I'm going to do a worksheet, and then I'm going to go back and extend love to her. So when I consistently do that, sooner or later, because the second tuning fork, when I hit this first one on a desk, the second tuning fork has no choice. It has to entrain with the first. When the only energy that I'm sending to her is that extending that active presence of love, sooner or later, that love's got to start to move in her. And when it does, that's the most fertile ground for producing the result that you want, for her to communicate and be open with you. I promise you, if what you send is anger and fear and disapproval and, whatever, I promise that's not going to be the kind of energy that's ever on an energetic level where real communication occurs. That's not the kind of energy that's ever going to open her to come back with love. But extending love in her direction, every time you think of her, and every time you think of her and something else comes up, that's your next worksheet. That's your next forgiveness process. And when you've cleared all that out and you're doing nothing but extending pure love in her direction, that's the most fertile ground for your goal to be achieved, for her to respond energetically to you as the presence of love.
Thank
Does
you.
does that make sense?
Yeah, and does that apply to, without doing the worksheet? You know, if I just extend love to everyone who upsets me, I'll just extend.
Well, okay, let's hold there. There's a good lesson in that phrase. You know, when Shakespeare said, "My words fly up, my thoughts remain below." Remember our definition of denial? Do you remember it?
Well, it was dissociation, wasn't it? Dissociation, wasn't it? No.
No. So I want you to write this down. Denial.
Hang on, I've got to get me pad. Hold on, I'm not prepared. Oh, there it is. Ah, sorry. Trying to drop phone. Right, okay. I haven't done a worksheet for some time. There's my confession. Probably since the last time I saw you, my dear. Right, denial, yeah.
Okay, so notice how you're a house divided against yourself. Oh, I want this, I want this, I want this, I want this, but I'm not going to do what it takes. I just ask you to notice that. And you might want to start to do something about. I mean, you've got a tool that's so profoundly powerful.
I know, it's remindment, it's reminding, that's all.
Yeah.
It's reminding.
So, do you have a cell phone?
Yes, I downloaded it today.
Well, there's an awesome thing on your cell phone called an alarm.
Oh, right.
And so put an alarm on your phone for, you know, if you usually get up at 8 o'clock and by 9 o'clock you're sitting relaxing, having breakfast, and then you have a few minutes to yourself, put an alarm on your own phone for 9 o'clock, do a worksheet. Or at lunchtime at work, 12:30, do a worksheet. Or, you know, before I prepare dinner when I get home, 5:30, I have an alarm on my phone. I don't have to remember. But so our definition of denial, when I think or speak,
right, denial,
as though something outside of me when I think or speak as though something outside of me is the cause of what's moving inside of me, I'm in denial.
Yeah.
And your recollection was right. Denial then leads to dissociation. I hide something from myself. And then that person.
Something outside of me, after something outside of me, what?
So denial is thinking or speaking as though something outside of me is the cause of what's moving inside of me. Period. When I deny, in essence, I'm saying to my mind, there's something painful down here and I don't want to look at it. So hide that from me, lock it away in a place where I'll never have access to it, and show me a picture about how my statement that they're the one who makes me angry, my denial, is true. And my mind is an evidential device. It'll produce that picture and it'll show me that they're the cause of my pain, my anger, whatever it is. So just notice that you talked about how I'm doing worksheets on the people who upset me. Do you hear the denial in that?
What?
Take
by
a breath.
saying people who hurt me. Oh, I'm on mute, am I? By people who hurt me. But no, what you're saying is, and I agree with it. I've been, I don't know what my terms are. I've been hurt in the past or whatever, and I've not dealt with it really. And that hurt is within me. Is that right?
That hurt is within you.
Yeah.
So notice now, if your daughter doesn't communicate with you, she's not hurting you, but her behavior certainly resonates your hurt. But when I say to my mind, you know, here's the long form of the statement, the people who hurt me. Here's the long form. Mind, I've been through this hurt 87 different times with 42 different people. And I know that it's mine, but I don't ever want to look at it again. You lock it away so I never see it and build me a picture about how they're the cause of my pain. So now I've dissociated from my pain. But I've hidden it in the only place where I guaranteed I'm going to get to look at it forever, inside of me. Forgiveness is how you open and bring it up and move through it bring it forward in the presence of love, and create literally an energetic change in that. So I was just pointing out as you were speaking, how you stepped into denial there. I'll do worksheets on the people who hurt me. Now, certainly somebody can cancel the thought, punch us in the nose, and that's, there it is. But short of a punch in the nose or something like that, nobody can hurt you. But if there's hurt in there, just about anybody can bring it up. And so anybody that can bring it up, you'll notice that the way they bring it up is you have a goal for them. Gee, I wanted them to speak to me lovingly, gently, respectfully, and they dissed me. So now what's my goal? I wanted them to speak to me lovingly, gently, respectfully. They didn't, and now I'm hurting and my mind's blaming them. But this is an old hurt I've known for a long time. So now I want to speak accurately, and I want my mind to show me a perception that's accurate. So the language that would reflect accurately there would be, and I've been doing worksheets around all the people in my life who have resonated my hurt over and over and over again. And I'm willing to look at my hurt and I'm willing to dump it, forgive it, let go of it. Do you see the difference there?
Yeah.
Yeah. So just the tuning fork analogy.
Yes.
So our own hurt within us that we've carried, denied, and when someone hurts us or they're
Nobody
hurt
can
and
hurt you.
anger.
Nobody can hurt you.
No, well, what I'm
You gotta
saying,
give up that belief.
eh?
You've got hurt, and anybody that can resonate it, your mind will show you a picture that they're hurting you. The truth is, you've been through that hurt 87 different times with 42 different people. You're the only one that was there every time, and it's time to take responsibility, to stop the denial and own it. So every time somebody brings up my hurt, what I do is I use that as a catalyst to do my next worksheet.
Mm.
Now I'm moving in the direction of healing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I was just thinking of the tuning fork analogy. So,
Okay.
if someone else is, and I wonder if a lot of it is, I carry this hurt and trauma in my energy field, and people see me as a victim, and maybe I'm trying not to see myself as a victim anymore. I'm not a victim anymore. I don't know, and that
Interesting.
resonates something in them, like the tuning fork, and they think, do you know what, we'll be horrible to this woman. I don't know if that makes any sense whatsoever.
100% sense. Here's how and why. First of all, they did an experiment in a prison, and they did lineups. Only they did reverse lineups. They had criminals behind the glass, and they brought people in off the street and did a lineup with them. And the criminals said who it is that they would attack, just looking at I'd go after number one. Oh no, number 4 there, that's who I'd go after. And I forget what the numbers were, but something like 90% of the choices the criminals agreed on. Out of 10 people in front of them, they'd go after number 7. How does that happen? Well, again, it's a law of resonance. If I hold, I always get hurt by people. There's an energy there. Back about 40 years or so ago, I used to keynote at a conference called Global Science here in the US. And one year I was there doing a keynote, and there was a gentleman there named Marcel Vogel. Marcel was a 23-year senior scientist from IBM. The kind of mind Marcel had was that when he was 11, he invented and patented chemical light. You go to I guess over there you'd call it a rugby game, and you go to the store and you buy a light stick. It's plastic and there are glass tubes inside of it. You break the glass tubes, the chemicals in the tubes mix, and they light up.
Yep.
Marcel invented that when he was 11. His family didn't have the money to patent it. Marcel at 11 patented that himself. The only reason you have a computer is because Marcel invented the magnetic coating on the plates in a hard drive that allow the hard drive to store information. This is the kind of mind Marcel had. So Marcel brings a camera actually that was invented in Britain. It's called a Delaware camera, a man named George Delaware. This camera is different than any other camera. Normally you have an aperture and you push a button that opens it, it lets light energy in, and the light energy is registered on the plate. That's how the camera works. Well, this one's different. In front of the aperture, there's a tuning mechanism. somewhat like a radio tuner. You can tune it to different, I can tune my radio to 900 on the dial, 1200, 1500. I can tune it different places. So this is a tuning mechanism in front of the aperture on the camera. And when you tune it properly, you can take anything, take a picture of it, and if the tuning device is accurately tuned, you'll get a picture of whatever is energetically in front of the tuning device. So an example, and I've seen pictures of it. You take a picture of an acorn, and with the camera tuned properly, what shows up on the photographic plate is an oak tree. Now people say, well, that doesn't make much sense. I mean, how could you get an oak tree out of an acorn? Well, think about it. Has anybody here ever planted an acorn and gotten a Mercedes or an ear of corn, or planted corn, pardon me, and gotten a tomato or gotten a head of lettuce? No, every time you plant an acorn, you get an oak tree. Why is that? Because the pattern, the energetic pattern of the oak tree is in the acorn. The same as in this room right now, there are probably at least 1,000 different picture and sound systems moving. Like if I had my TV turned on, I could tune to hundreds of different channels. They're obviously here in the room, but I sure don't see anything. I don't have the tuning mechanism for it, but the TV does. The tuning mechanism in front of the camera, of this Delaware camera, tunes to frequencies. Obviously, in the acorn, there is the energetic pattern of what's going to become an oak tree. Tuned properly, he could take a picture of it. So the whole upshot of that story is, so then what Marcel shows us is the pictures that he could take with the camera of the high energy waves that leave the mind when we think a thought. And if I'm sending out a signal, if my thinking is, boy, I hope nobody ever comes and hurts me like that again, the high energy wave that's leaving my mind is, remember the word don't isn't heard, somebody come and hurt me like this again. And guess who's going to show up? The person who's in resonance with that, the person who's in tune with that, and they'll know exactly how to hurt you because you're communicating continuously. And here's my offering. Here's why that happens. I offer that the Creator does not like us being diseased and destroying ourselves. And so the universe has been so set up that if there is a disease energy in me that I am damaging my physiology with, and ultimately all death is suicide, we take in energies that don't belong. If I have a death energy in me, if I have pain in me, the universe's purpose, the world's purpose is to come and show me what it is I'm holding on to. The world's purpose is to kick us in the limitation, not to punish us, not to harm us, not to hurt us, but to give us the opportunity one more time, to change our minds and go, oh, here I am doing this again. This must be inside of me. Here's the key. What's moving inside of me is moving inside of me. When I stop pretending that it's caused by something else, I can then access and forgive it. I can remove it. So yes, and I'll just ask everybody to think, how many that are listening have ever gone into someone else's space totally committed to being loving and nurturing and caring, and all of a sudden found yourself functioning like a mad banshee? Everybody's done that. Well, why did that happen? Because there was such a strong field coming from that person that needed abuse, and I had the matching bag of garbage. I had the ability to abuse like that, and resonance brought that up in me. And unless I'm really clear and strong in my choices in the control of my own mind, bingo. It's going to play out. And, the invitation to this work, I heard a guru talking last week, and he had a great example of this. Imagine that someone canceled a thought, has a fist that's they're not able to control it, and they're punching themselves in the eye, knocking their eyes up, destroying themselves. What would you do with that fist? Well, I'd tie it. I'd take control of it. I'd do something about it. If one needed to cancel a thought, you might cut the arm off to save the eye and the head. Well, so many people are continuously beating themselves up with internal hatred and fear and sadness and grief and rage, and they don't know how to cut off the part that's hurting them, and they don't know that it's even theirs. My offering is 2,000 years ago, this man named Yeshua gave us a tool called forgiveness that showed us exactly how to go in and remove the energetic patterns with which we damage ourselves. And the purpose of the world is to continuously show us those parts until we decide to finally be responsible and forgive, remove those energetic patterns. And that worksheet is the how to remove those patterns.
So through your embodiment. Great.
Say it again.
Thank you, Michael. So
You are welcome.
Doing the worksheets will remove these energetic patterns.
That's exactly what it's designed for. Yes, precisely.
Really?
Yep.
I wouldn't know. Here I go again. I wouldn't know where to start.
Yes. Well, we already know that you know how to start. Watch the last video because we had this conversation, and you might want to go back and rewatch it because that one's been answered.
Mhm.
Okay. Well, thank you.
But notice your pretense. Notice the game that you play with yourself. Oh, I don't know. You know exactly. You said that exactly last time, and you were kind of pushing it away, and I got harder and harder. I pushed really hard back at you to inform you know exactly where to start. And notice you haven't done a worksheet since then. You know exactly what to do, and you haven't done it yet. I'm going to invite you that, in 2 weeks when we do this again, that you're going to come back on and say, you know what? It's been 14 days since that last meeting, and I've done 5 worksheets a day for the last 14 days, and boy, is my life changing. I'll invite you to consider saying that in 14 days.
Well, I'm scared of you.
Step in and do your work. Pardon me?
I said I'm scared of you, so I will make sure I will have done them.
So let's look again. Notice your denial. You scare me. I'm scared of you. No, dear heart, I understand you've been hurt and you have fear in you. And virtually anybody or anything can trigger that fear. When they trigger it, if you'll do that worksheet process, you'll start to let go of that old pattern. It's probably a family pattern that's been going on a long time. It may take you many, many worksheets to work through it, but you know exactly what it is that you need to do. And all you need to do is choose to do it. And when you're ready, you'll do it. Now, I think about a woman that I worked with in Fort Lauderdale back several years ago. We have a teaching center in the Ozarks in southern Missouri, not open right now because of COVID. But we do anything from 9-day to 65-day intensives at Heartland, our teaching center. And this woman had been to, 7, 8, maybe 9 different intensives over a period of about 10 years, but she'd never done one worksheet. She hated them. She used all our other tools, but she wouldn't touch that one. And one year we were speaking in Fort Lauderdale, and she'd invite us, Jeannie and I, my wife, to stay at her house. And we did a full week series of workshops, including the Why Is This Happening to Me Again workshop, the main one that we do. And she came to it once again. It had probably been the 15th time that she'd done that workshop, and she got it. About a week later, she called me and she said, Michael, I just want you to know that this worksheet has become my best friend. I'm doing them all the time. I can tell this thing anything, and when I'm finished with them, I've let go of a load. I never understood that that's what could happen, but that's what can happen. So make it your best friend, use it every day, and watch your life change.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
You're welcome. So we have anybody else with a question?
Yes, we've got 3 people with a question. We've got Angelique. Is that how you pronounce it?
Hey, Angelique, welcome.
Yeah, hi, Michael. Thank you so much for this evening. It's amazing. Yeah. Michael, my question maybe is going to be very simple, but the meaning for me is so, how can I say, so different. Can you please tell us how we can set up a goal and how we can achieve it, how we can focus on? For example, the life is, I think, setting goal for every part. For example, I want to wake up early is my goal. 3 days, I'm going to do this one. But, to achieve this goal is quite sometimes difficult. So can you please explain to us how we can set up goal, or when we set up the goal, what we need to do, how we can focus on, and how we can achieve our goal.
Okay. So there's a workshop that I do called Getting the Stress You Need. You can go to our website and there's a video. You can order the streaming copy of it or a DVD of it. And in that workshop, we go over a worksheet that we call the Mind Goal Management Sheet. It shows you how to strengthen your ability to manage your goals. And, you know, the purpose of the goal is to drive your behavior to produce a result. One of the most important things to do, and this was said, you wouldn't know that this man Yeshua 2,000 years ago was talking about stress management, but you hear a point where he says, sufficient for the day are the evils thereof. And you listen to that and you go, what the heck does it mean? Sufficient for the day are the evils thereof. Well, the Greeks translated the word evil. It isn't that at all, but in Aramaic, or at least that's not the English meaning of the word. In Aramaic, there are two different words or two different meanings for the word evil. One, you remember in the earlier session, we talked about sin. And the word sin in Aramaic is an archery term. If I fire at the bullseye and I miss the bullseye, the scorekeeper yells, sin, you're off the mark. That's all the word means. And in the similar vein, if I fire at the target and I miss the target altogether, the scorekeeper would inform me by yelling evil, like you missed the target altogether. That's one meaning. The second meaning is unripened or unfinished, incomplete. So let's say I have a really dark green banana. In Aramaic, it would be proper for me to say that banana is evil. It's not ripe. It's not ready to be eaten. Or let's take that banana 3 weeks later when it's just brown, gooey mush. It would be proper for me to say that banana is evil. It's not ripe. It's not ready to eat. But if I watch the banana and, you know, it's this nice speckled brown, yellow, I peel it, it's perfect to eat, then that banana is not evil. That banana is edible. So it's like coming to its peak place. When something is at its peak, then that word evil is no longer applicable. So when you hear him saying, sufficient for the day are the evils thereof, what he's saying is, don't have more incomplete goals than you can handle for today. So you break a task down to the steps that are needed. You know, Jeannie, my wife, when she teaches, she uses this example. We were on the road traveling. Actually, it was quite amazing because she got a 4-year degree in about a little less than 3 years, her master's degree. And she did it while we were on the road traveling. I never could have done it. But she uses the example of, well, you know, my ultimate goal was to get my gown and cap and walk and receive my master's degree. But if that had been her goal from day one, for 3.5 years or 3 years, she'd have been frustrated because there was nothing she could do about that. Sufficient for the day are the evils thereof means only, so she had to break that whole process down to bite-sized goals. For instance, to achieve that ultimate, that actually becomes a purpose to walk and get her degree. That becomes a purpose. And her goal is, what can she do today? Not tomorrow, but today, because every time you load a goal in your mind, you use up a resource. It's kind of like with your computer. You open your, say, your word processing program, man, that computer zips right along. You open your email along with the word processor, it runs really well. You open your telephone dialer and you start dialing a call, and then you open your CAD program and all of a sudden the computer crashes because all of the resources are used up. Every goal that you set in your mind uses resources. So this is a brilliant piece of information he gave us 2,000 years ago. Refrain from setting any goal that you can't achieve today, because if you do that and you only set goals for what you can achieve, then you'll have all the resources you need to pull that out. If Jeannie had been thinking about, oh, gee, I have to apply for my for entry to the school, I have to pick my courses, I have to get the books, I have to write papers, I have to get her degree, her mind would have been such overwhelm, she couldn't have done anything about it. But you break the task down to, what can I do about this today? So once she makes the choice and sets as a purpose for the next 3 years to get her degree, she starts out with, I contact the university and I get the application papers. And then I frame a goal for Wednesday, when the papers are going to be here, to sit down and fill them out and get them in the mail. And then Friday, when I know they've got the papers, that's when I call the registrar and make sure I've got, and I want the catalog. And what am I going to? So if you overwhelm yourself and use up too many resources trying to get all these things done, it's going to make things much more difficult. Now, there's another category where you pick a big project and it's a difficult project. And that's one that you follow the same rules. You break down, what can I actually do today about this? And then I do only that. The rest of it's in my planner. I don't even think about it. When I go to sleep at night, I might say, well, I've got this goal that I've framed for tomorrow. I'm not going to set it till tomorrow morning, but I've got this goal that I've framed, and I'm going to ask for guidance in my dreams for anything that I need to know about it. That can be very effective, but only set, and you can go to our website, whyagain.org, whyagain.org, and you can go to worksheets and you'll see the mind goal management sheet. It's somewhat self-explanatory, and I do an important or big part of the workshop, Getting the Stress You Need, explains that whole process and how to fill the worksheet out. So I hope that helps. And does that get to your question? Does that arouse some other questions?
Yes, thank you so much, Michael. Thank you very much.
Cool, thank you. All right, Inka, we've got someone else with a question.
Yes, we have. And I'll put in a link for all your stuff in the chat in a minute. But we've got Jan next.
Hey, Jan, welcome.
Yeah. Hi, Michael. Thanks for being with us today.
Honored and delighted.
I am so in a reverse engineer understand, happy to catch myself overthinking, especially being female in this planet, because so very much the come at us as a gender amidst the human race.
I hear you. I hear you. I actually write fairly often and post on my Facebook page about the fact that I have 4 granddaughters, and I'm committed to opening the space for healing to happen around the way women are treated, so that my granddaughters and other women are honored as human beings and treated the way humans deserve to be treated, lovingly, gently, and with respect. So I'm with you on that.
Very cool.
And I recognize that the abuse that males have heaped upon women in our culture, or cultures plural, not just this one here in America, is insane and bizarre. And ladies, as a man, I apologize to you for that. And I'm committed to doing anything I need to do to clean any inclination, genetic or otherwise, in me that could ever participate in that again, and to support creating a world where we all treat each other as human beings, lovingly, gently, and respectfully.
Thank you. Thank you for being a torch that way. Not as in
thanks
burn,
for your
but
support.
Lighting up, yeah. And so being here in the third plane in this embodiment, I too have overthought and still basically do, and it's my overcompensating. Definitely found that out. And wouldn't be able to have learned about it hadn't I gone through an energy coursework of about 13 and a half years, because teacher was always getting me to reach through. And I really appreciate her doing that, being part of a team that helped me to get unstuck and out of collapse that turn into myself so that I collapse and wipe out, which kind of explains why there had been some very close calls of, no longer being here in this embodiment because I
Ouch.
wasn't getting wasn't getting it. And
Well,
so
in our codependence to interdependence work, I talk about what I call the pseudo solutions, and there are about a dozen of them, what I call the pseudo solutions of the non-being mind. And the number one pseudo solution is, if I could just figure this out. Here's my offering. You're never going to figure it out, but whatever it is, you can forgive it. Using your head to try to figure all that out, it just doesn't work. But if I'm confronting something that's based in pain, rather than sitting around trying to figure it out, and people spend their whole lives doing that, and it can't be done, I can apply forgiveness to it. And I can dissolve whatever the complexity is of that and get it down to the point where it becomes something understandable and doable.
yeah, and definitely using more full of my embodiment will be the bigger space, so as to not or so as it supersedes just my being able to compartmentalize figuring it out.
Right.
Yeah, and that's why, even though we really embody of utmost intelligence, we can't overthink it and miss out on that part of myself, as I was doing before I got to energy school.
Right.
And teacher coach was letting me know, you don't have to, quote unquote, survive being in your embodiment that way. There is so much more. You're not going to get it through your religion. You've shown that to yourself, but you can get it through a different kind of faith, and it brings around to meeting you and the likes of what it is that you help us learn, a full circle of forgiveness, the very different, more open.
One of the things that happens if we have been in fear and or hostility over an extended period of time, if we were raised in circumstances that tended to generate fear, bring forward fear, is that there's a protective mechanism within us, and it's part of the autonomic nervous system. There are two aspects of the autonomic nervous system. There's the sympathetic aspect of it and the parasympathetic. Parasympathetic is where all organs are being supplied with blood, with oxygen, with nutrition, and all of those organs function well and we thrive. But and our energy is being distributed in a lot of directions. But if we get into a situation where we perceive it as threat, the autonomic nervous system dials us over to what's called sympathetic dominance. And sympathetic dominance is basically fight, fright, flight, or freeze. And what happens is that the blood flow to all of the organs that are non-essential for survival, like for instance, if a lion's chasing me, I don't need to go pee. I don't need to digest food. I don't need for my spleen to be working and producing red blood cells. I need all the energy I have to go to the large muscles, to my lungs. I need to be able to breathe, my muscles to work, and I need to run to get away from that tiger.
Understand.
That's sympathetic dominance. If over an extended period of time we live in sympathetic dominance, what happens is we tend to become chronically in the state where all of those thrive aspects of ourselves are cut off. And particularly, they're cut off from their blood supply on a capillary level. And when that occurs, because the capillaries close down, we've got, depending whose numbers you take, each body has somewhere between 10 and 60 billion capillaries. And at the head of each capillary, they're meant to be free-flowing little streams of blood that carry oxygen, nutrition, and keep us healthy and well and pull wastes out and move them away. But if we're in a chronic, over a period of years, state of sympathetic dominance, those at the head of each of those 60 billion capillaries, there's a set of muscle fibers called the precapillary orifice, pardon me. And what happens is they shut down to restrict the flow of blood so that if we get injured, we don't bleed to death. And so that energy is available for our large muscles and breathing. Over an extended period of time, those capillaries tend to, because we're in that chronic state, the flow stops. And, you know, just like when you have a tree fall in the stream, a bunch of gunk, you know, kind of gathers, mosses grow, things that don't belong there, organisms start to grow there that don't belong in that fresh flowing stream. And we need to resolve that. And that means we need to detoxify and cleanse and open the blood flow up into those areas of the body so that all of those, you know, things like reproduction, you know, blood building, immunity, all those things. Your immunity doesn't matter if a lion's chasing you. So we're going to shut that down. But you need to get back to that balance between sympathetic and parasympathetic so that you've got that flow and you're able to thrive. That's a really important part of the puzzle. I actually did a presentation recently for a company called Avison where I explained that whole thing. And if anybody wants a copy of that, if you go to send an email to Jeannie, and her email is jeanie@whyagain.org. Jeannie@whyagain.org. If you drop her a note saying you want a copy of the sympathetic dominance presentation, we'll send it to you free, and it will explain more about that and opening that part of the structure up.
Oh, so jolly good. It sounds like everything that you had said could make for a long story short of why there is the existence amidst us and the human race, dissociative disorder, and how it really constructs through the human body system. And it's why I don't have it, but I know of somebody who does, and I'm using it as a kind of catalyst by with which to render the write of a book about. And so if I could know this symptomatic dominant present
sympathetic,
yep,
parasympathetic.
Exactly. I could make for a way where it is saying through that book, you don't have to stay in that state. You
better
really
not.
can climb out of it, and you're not defaulted to being of a broken mind, unlogical, unlinear, and completely frozen. You can come out of it. Do you really want to?
Well, two things that you mentioned there, frozen, literally, there's an aspect of that sympathetic dominance that puts people into freeze, and you know that threat is there and people watch, they go, well, why didn't you put your arms up? Literally, they are physiologically frozen. They can't put their arms up. It isn't a matter of I chose not to protect myself. They can't lift their arms because the brain is in freeze mode. And in that state, the higher cortical functions, the higher brain functions are shut down. If you're running away from a lion, you don't need higher cortical function. You need to be focused on survival. And so, yes, opening that flow, opening the blood flow to that, cleaning out the gunk in the capillaries is so important.
Yes. Yes.
So I'll send you, just drop Jeannie, Jeannie@whyagain.org, a note asking for it, and I'll get it sent off to you.
Okay.
And any question, you know, 5 days a week in America, if you've got access, and there is a link where you can call in on Skype free. We do a radio show from 1 till 2 o'clock here in America, and 1 till 2 p.m. Eastern time, which is 5 hours earlier than you are there in England, if that's where you are. And any questions, you know, if you watch that presentation, you have questions, you're certainly welcome to connect with the radio show. If you've got dial-in capabilities to America, most people listen to the show on their phones, and they can call in. The phone number is 563-999-3581. So from 1 till 2 o'clock Eastern time. You're welcome to call and ask questions, and we'll be delighted to offer any support we can from every aspect.
ever so thank you. That really does complete me for many a different waywards. Thank you.
All right,
Looks good.
thank you. All right, so we've got another hand up.
Yeah, we've got
Let's go for it.
Gabriella first.
Hey, Gabriella.
Is Gabriella still on?
Yeah, I'm here. Hey, Michael, and yeah, thank you for being here and everything. I kind of forgot what I wanted to ask about. Something popped to my mind, and maybe I can find the answer or guidance to it. So for a couple of years, or I would say 2 decades, I was very I couldn't forgive my father, and I felt really affected by that, and later on in my age, and
Excuse me for interrupting you, but we need to back up a little here. My suggestion, and I mean my whole profession, my 50 years of my life has been dedicated to forgiveness. Actually 40 years, 10 years before that was working up to understanding forgiveness. I would suggest you never forgive your father or anyone else for anything ever in a million years. It's the biggest mistake you can make. However, if in interaction with your father, you developed realities based in fear and pain, I would suggest that you utilize the forgiveness process to go inside yourself and remove your fear and your pain. When the Greeks translated the original Aramaic idea of forgiveness, and the most accurate word for forgiveness, actual forgiveness from the Aramaic, is removal. But when they translated it as letting somebody else off the hook. So I'm going to forgive you for what's going on inside of me. So I have pain moving in me. Imagine this. I literally stand in a line, and every person in the world, 7.5 billion people, walk by me, and I shake their hand and say, I forgive you, I forgive you, I forgive you, I forgive you. Have I done anything to change the pain that's inside of me? No. So pardon your father if you might, or if you choose to, and then take the worksheet process, go inside yourself, collapse your perception, get to the root of the pain and remove it. As you remove it, that's when you'll be actually doing real forgiveness work. So our culture's tricked us. It's got nothing to do with letting anybody else off the hook. Now, the Greeks basically said, well, you hurt me, but it's okay. I'll let you off the hook for that. It's all your fault, but I'll forgive you. That's not forgiveness. We've been taught a lie. I apply forgiveness to my pain, to access the root of it, to bring it forward and remove the energetic pattern. And as I remove the energetic patterns, I undo the blocks throughout the whole structure, including the circulatory issues we were talking about.
I think that makes sense, yeah, because I wasn't able to forgive, and exactly, I was like, right, I understand, okay, this is him, I won't be able to change that, never, and I need to accept that, and then I need to actually remove myself from that hurt and that pain, what he caused, maybe consciously or unconsciously, doesn't matter, but right. I just need to remove myself. Yeah. Thank you. That was my question only.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So applying, taking the worksheet. So, what a worksheet would look like in the circumstance I hear you talking about is, first of all, you start out I and name your own name, who am love. You get real clear on who you are. I'm experiencing rage. And you go through the process, and I'm pointing the rage at my father. So my father becomes the subject of the worksheet. What did I want from my father? I wanted my father to treat me lovingly, gently, and with respect. Maybe if he was verbally abusive, I might be saying my goal was for him to speak gentle words to me. If he was physically abusive, it might be for him to use his hands gently with me. And then further down the worksheet, I cancel my need for him to speak to me lovingly, gently, and with respect. And though that seems silly, when I cancel that goal, what happens is that goal for him to treat me and speak to me lovingly, gently, and with respect is going to keep this pain that I've not resolved moving, 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 moving. Next person that comes along that uses a harsh voice, boy, that pain moves and moves because I haven't removed it. So when I cancel the goal for him to treat me lovingly, gently, and with respect, my pained perception that came from those original events now collapses. And when they collapse in on themselves. And it gives me access to the underlying energetic pattern of held pain. And when I bring love, when I bring that present with love, then literally, energetically, love creates a transmutation of energy, a change in the structure of that energy of pain. And now I've forgiven, I've removed my pain. Does that make sense?
Makes complete sense, and I'm definitely going to try it. Thank you.
Cool. And again, call into the radio show anytime you have questions. We'll be back here in 2 weeks, but between now and then, 5 days a week, we've got an ongoing conversation about this. And the primary purpose of the show is simply to support people and answer their questions on, the fine points of the process. And they're also on our website. If you go to whyagain.org, you'll see there's a microphone on the page. That's for the radio show. If you click on that, kind of drill down through the links, you'll come to a place that talks about special shows. And over the 11 years we've been doing our radio show, there are at least 20 times where we have walked somebody through the whole forgiveness process. Here's how you do it. So there are at least 20 hours of instructions on how to use the worksheet. And they're free MP3 downloads, or you can listen to them, or you can download them to your phone or your computer. But the instructions are there. And then there are 2 shows, or 2 of these sessions that we did where we walk somebody through a worksheet. So there are lots of instructions. And, if questions come up, call the radio show. Let's have a conversation about it.
Perfect. That sounds really good.
All right.
Thank you.
Delighted. All right. Thank you.
Then we have Fiwu next.
Hi, thank you, Inka. Michael, I got a question, maybe 2. So, so throughout my life, I don't want to be with a man who has got children. It's always my dream to have our own family. But
Right.
I have had 3 relationships with men who got children from. I have loved 3 men who got children already, and they all lied to me because I asked the question and they lied to me, and I believed them. And then recent years, I thought 2 men to be my twin flames. The first one was quite painful, but I grew a lot. I thought he was my twin flame, so I persevered, and then we broke up, and I met another man online. We didn't even meet in person, and I believed he was my true twin flame. He ghosted me after he ghosted me, and that was 6 months ago. And I have transformed myself through in the process. But I had recently had a strong because I requested to meet him, but he refused to meet. So I went to his office, and I found out actually he got a wife and a child already. And yesterday he called me a crazy woman, and he said he never he didn't even remember what he said to me because it was like 6 months ago. But
Right.
I believed what he said to me, and I fell in love with him. And I still, I was really sad after the telephone conversation. He called me crazy woman, etc., etc. But I still feel love for him, and I don't hate him. I still have hope in him. So why is this happening to me again?
Well, my offering is there's some listening to your words. Now, again, remember Shakespeare said, my words fly up, my thoughts remain below. 2,000 years ago in the Aramaic, they said the power of life and death is in our words. Words are really important. So listening to your conversation, I would say one of the most powerful things that you need to apply forgiveness around is your hatred.
No, it's not hatred. I don't hate him.
Yeah, well,
I still
got
love him. The recent one, I still love him. But it's always been my intention to have my own family because I don't like sharing my mom.
Sure.
But he would go. So he told me he and his wife have split up, which I don't know whether that was true or not. And he does have children, a child. He told me that was none of my business. But why is it my destiny to dissolve my boundaries to love other people's children as my own?
Let's back up a little bit. So let's imagine I'm going, I live in Bristol, Virginia. Let's imagine that I'm going to Knoxville. It's a city about 2 hours from here. And I'm having a conversation with you, and I say in my conversation that I am not going to London today. Why would I ever bring London into the conversation? If I'm in Bristol, I'm going to Knoxville. Why would I even mention the word London? Somewhere in brain cells, something about London had to be firing, had to be there, or I'd never bring the conversation up. I wouldn't say I'm not going to New York City unless there was something about New York City in there. I wouldn't say I don't hate him unless there was something about hate moving in me. We don't use words that don't reflect what's happening in brain cells. So my offering would be that, remember, in the ancient Aramaic, they said, take care of the heart, for out of it are the issues in life. They didn't say take care of the other guy. They didn't say take care of the world. They said take care of the heart. Now, the heart isn't the physical organ they were talking about. That word heart in the ancient Aramaic would be the unconscious. Take care of your own unconscious dynamics, for out of it are the issues in life. So my offering is the fact that 2 or 3 times you've used the word hatred in regard to this man, that he's triggered something in your unconscious that until you resolve it is going to tend to play out in your relationships. So I would suggest that you do a couple of worksheets around, whatever's going on, whatever the goal was. Gee, I wanted him to be honest with me. So do your worksheet and cancel the goal for him. And you may find yourself uncovering some unconscious, and it may be even generational hatred. You wouldn't bring that conversation about hatred into this relationship unless that's what was moving you. That's my offering. Your words are telling you, my words fly up, as Shakespeare said, my thoughts remain below. I'm unconscious of this. Your words are telling you that there's something you're unconscious you need to resolve. That would be my offering.
Thank you. Okay. I think I stated once because you mentioned it, then I said I don't. I thought you heard it wrong, so I repeated. But I said once. The reason was even though he hurt me so badly, I still love him. I don't have any hatred towards him, even though I felt my dream was destroyed. But that's another issue. I'll dig deeper into my unconscious. But my other question is, am I destined to dissolve boundaries in?
Well, I don't.
When it comes to accepting, when it comes to sharing my man, should I dissolve this boundary in future?
Well, that's certainly not anything for me to choose for you. That's your choice. That's up to you as to what you choose to do with boundaries and such. My offering would be that one issue leads right into the other. And the first place to go is to clean up some of this unconscious data. The fact that you've had the same experience with more than one man, I don't know if you've read my book yet. There's a free PDF link that you can download it free and read it. It's called Why Is This Happening to Me Again? And, you know, probably the biggest atrocity that's been committed against us, you and I as human beings, is that we've had hidden from us the fact that we are by nature creators. And we've bought into that lie that we're not. But my offering is, you're creating this again because you're a creator and there's a part of you participating, and that part of you is the unconscious. That's why they said take care of the unconscious, for out of it are the issues in life. You've got to delve in there and clean that up. If you see a result coming about over and over, it's because there's something inside that you're creating that result with. So my offering to you would be, the first order of business is to start going inside yourself and doing your inner work and cleaning that, rather than trying to figure out, well, how am I going to do this? Do I need to dissolve my boundaries to have this man or another man, or, you know, whatever. But the fact that you've gotten yourself into that situation where more than one man has lied to you about having children says to me there's a part of you that's participating. And this, sometimes people hear this as blame. This is a no fault process. You look at the worksheet and it talks no fault. This isn't about fault. It's about responsibility. If I'm producing this result, you know, I could say, well, I produced it once, but it was an accident. I produced it twice, 3 times, you know, I'm a creator, this is mine. And the forgiveness process is designed to help you to move into finding those unconscious parts of yourself, which produce results that you don't even know are there until they show up and kick you. So I suggest that the most important thing you can do would be to step in and start really seriously doing some forgiveness work. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. I have done lots of work in the child, shadow work, etc., etc. I was just seeking answers whether it was because actually I, as a creator, I have created this life that I won't be having children of my own. That's why I got myself in these situations again and again.
Mm-hmm.
But with the first 2 men, I still had a dream. So because they had children, even though I was attached to them, I was in relationship with them, but still a part of me still hoped to be able to realize my dream. So with this latest man, who I never met in person, my first question to him was whether he had got children already. He said no. And I did have 4 abortions in my younger years. So I wonder whether, but I wasn't in love then. Yeah. And there were accidents. And I'm from China, so abortions are quite a very normal concept in China. I wasn't spiritual then. So I was wondering whether it was because I created this life, my soul, my higher self created this life, pre-birth, that I wouldn't have children of my own. And I was destined to dissolve this boundary, my resistance of being, to love a man unconditionally, even though he has got children.
Well, you know, Karl Marx was probably responsible for more deaths on planet Earth than any human being in history. Here's what Karl Marx said at one point. The way you destroy a culture is to change the meaning of its words. The reason for that, I offer, is that words are usually the way we form our goals. And if we have a definition for words that is not accurate and true, then we'll never produce the result that we want. So I'm going to maybe shock everybody that's listening. I've got some really, really, really bad news for everybody here. And the bad news is nobody has ever loved you, and nobody is ever going to love you. And no, you do not love this man. You have never loved anyone. You can't, because love isn't something that you do. Now, the short form of it, and we did go through this exercise in one of the earlier sessions, I invite people to go back to a moment where they held a newborn child. And by the way, the list that you were talking about earlier that was missing from that one side of the board, I don't know how that happened, but the list on one side, we've got the hostility and fear-based mind, the non-being mind. The other side of the board is a list of people's descriptors for the newborn child. And Jeannie and I, my wife, have asked this question about holding a newborn child tens of thousands of times all over the globe in all kinds of cultures. And when we ask someone to hold a newborn child, we ask for that person to tap in to the essence of the newborn and describe the essence. So the list that's missing from that particular video would be people's description, which would be things like sweetness and purity and love. And the most common, the common denominator in describing that newborn essence, from talking to people all over the world, is they describe that newborn essence as love. So imagine the moment where you've held a newborn, and go back and tap into the essence, and you recognize that child is love. Now ask yourself a question. Is this child loving me, or is this child love? Child doesn't even know I'm here. Obviously, the child is love. So again, Karl Marx, change the meaning of a culture's words, you can destroy the culture. Love isn't something you or I can do. Those relationships where we say, I fell in love, are usually based on matching bags of garbage. We have people that have resonating garbage, and in each other's presence, they're able to more effectively hide their garbage from themselves, and they get high and they say, I've fallen in love with you. And those relationships usually end up in the type of situation you're talking about, with conflicts and things like the bag of garbage that this fellow has is about how he degrades the women in his life. You're a crazy woman. That's his bag of garbage. I don't know what your bag of garbage is that matches. I can imagine that perhaps, and I know that, you know, in China, the abortion thing is pretty normal, but I can imagine that as a woman to give up a child that's, you know, within your body has got to be a significant trauma. And for most would bring up some form of self-judgment, guilt, fear. And if so, then the matching bag of garbage, he comes in to intimidate you, telling you what a crazy woman you are. And I'm just saying this as a theory. I'm not saying this is fact, but this is just possibilities. If I have the guilt from what I've done, or, you know, and the pain from previous relationships, then those matching bags of garbage, when we are together and I can hide that from myself, I'm in a great space and everything's wonderful. And boy, my garbage is really well hidden when I'm with this person, until they either violate a goal I had for them, or I violate a goal they had for me. And then all hell breaks loose. So my offering is that instead of when I speak about the goal of I want to fall in love, I want to be in love with someone, I'm in a total fantasy world. I'm in a total false construct. And I know almost all of the world is doing this, but you don't want to fall in love with somebody. You want to discover yourself as the active presence of love, and then in interaction with another, tap into together the fact that the essence of each of you is the presence of active love. And now when two people who know who they are as love come together, the fireworks happen. That's when life gets really exciting. But our culture has destroyed the meaning of words, so we think that it's about falling in love. And my offering is, first order of business is discover who you are as love. And then make a commitment to
I have
see
gone
them.
there already.
Yeah.
My question is whether it's my destiny to not have my own children, but my deserve level is so high at the moment because I have become love. I still believe that I deserve to have children. I deserve to have it all, true love and children and abundance and everything that my heart desires.
You got my support that we all deserve to have it all. But if there are blocks in my unconscious that prevent me from having it, it's going to always be a step ahead of me until I resolve those blocks. And the fact that you've described so many situations where that's occurred, I would offer that there's more work to be done. And as far as, you know, I'm not psychic. I'm not here to guide you and tell you what you should or shouldn't be doing with, you know, your question about that. Do I, you know, give this up? Or that's not my place. My place with you at this moment would be to support you in getting to that place where you directly experience yourself as that newborn essence that you are, that you truly are. And from there, you'll know everything you need to do.
Yeah, then I think I'm meant to dissolve that boundary. So I need to love everybody first, including.
Well, once again, I'm going to offer, and it's an old habit, the whole world's doing it. You've never loved anybody. You're never going to love anybody. You don't love him, and you'll never love his children or anybody else's or your own children. But you can arrive at the place where
loved him.
You know,
because we are the same soul. I have loved myself, so I have loved him.
Okay. I'm offering your mind is tricking you. You either are love or you do love. And if you are love, then your language would be, and I've discovered who I am and I function as love. And we're like, you know, with my wife and I, and we still, because we come from a culture that uses the word love improperly, we still once in a while say to each other, I love you. But primarily when we talk about how we care for each other, we talk about cherishing each other. And that together, you know, one of the purposes of our relationship is to support each other in functioning as love, as who we are, and being really clear that that's the primary, you know, I'm here to support her. If something less than love comes up in here, I'm here to support her letting go of that and rediscovering herself time after time after time as love. And her purpose in relationship to me is to support me in experiencing myself. If I fall into some form of hostility or fear or sadness or grief or rage or whatever, then for her to stand as a space for me to rediscover myself as love and to realize that I am functioning as love. And then we cherish each other out of that space. And, you know, those, they may sound like, oh, you know, that's just semantics. That doesn't really matter. My offering is it matters big time. When you get to the point where you naturally never say the words, I love you again, and you recognize and you easily say, and I know who I am the active presence of love, and I see really clearly who you are as the active presence of love. Let's get together and create the most cherished relationship that's ever been created. You'll be on track with a mind that can then support you in producing that result. But when we're using the words incorrectly, we always produce frustrating, pained results. That would be my offering.
Thank you, but I have no pain. I still feel love.
Yeah, cool. Okay.
Thank you, Michael.
All right. Honored. Thank you.
Thank you. We've got another one. We got Julian next.
Hi, Michael.
Julian, welcome.
Hi, Michael.
Hey there, young man.
Huh?
Good to see your face. Welcome.
Yeah, welcome too. First of all, thank you for your work. It's been really valuable. I learned a lot. And as a fun fact, in my city in Germany, it's a small city. There's it's one of the few cities in the world that has most of the Aramaic people. Yeah, most of the Aramaic people live here.
Oh, wonderful.
And yeah, so my question is it's not about me, it's more about you. I want to know something about you.
Okay.
I want to know, do you speak Aramaic? And if so, where did you learn it?
So I'm the director of a foundation that's translating a copy of the oldest known New Testament in its original Aramaic language into English. As a director of the foundation, I'm not allowed to read, write, or speak the language. So no, I don't. There are courses that you can take. There's a gentleman named Rocco Errico that teaches a course on learning Aramaic, and I'm sure there are others. But basically, so that my mind doesn't get in the way as I'm directing the translation work, I'm not allowed to speak the language. What I've worked with, my part in the foundation has been, we had, when the original translation work was done, there were 25 of the world's top Aramicists that did the translation work. Actually, my partner was an attorney, and he developed a set of rules that came out of the courtroom for determining the veracity of testimony in the courtroom. He developed that set of rules for determining what would get into the translation. And then my job actually was to take what the translators had done, bring it into the laboratory of the classroom, much as we have here, and see if it works. We didn't consider the translation verified until it worked and produced the result that it said it would produce. So that was my part in the foundation's work.
Okay, that's very interesting. And also the second question is, what's the story? How did you come to start this kind of work?
Okay, so my background is in electronics with a side study in physics. The last 6 days, it actually started when I was in utero. The last 6 days I was in utero, my mother had toxemia, and they gave her Pitocin to try to force my birth for 6 days. The evening of the 6th day, as I'm being born, the doctors call my father at work and say, if you want to see your son alive, you better get down here because he's not going to live through the night. They were sure I would be dead. 4 or 5 times in that first year, I was almost dead. And I was rescued and resuscitated, and that was good. For the next 25 years, I lived on an inhalator because of lung problems and pills. I came to a point where I recognized that while these drugs were keeping me alive, they were killing me, and I needed to do something. That set me on a search for real healing. I became my background was electronics, as I say, with a side study in physics, and I became a naturopathic physician. And when I was in medical school, it was just like, oh my God, this is just energy. They're talking about how energy systems work. The body, the mind, the whole thing is nothing but an interactive energy system. And so that really opened a different perspective for me on the study of medicine. I then came in touch with someone who was translating, the fellow I just mentioned, actually, Rocco Errico. He had actually worked with a fellow named George Lamsa in doing a translation of an Aramaic Bible. And when I heard him talking about this man, Yeshua, the brain cells that fired me, what I recognized is this man they called Jesus, and his name wasn't Jesus, it was Yeshua, is not a theologian. It's got nothing to do with theology. The man is a physicist. He's a physiologist. He's a geneticist. He's a psychologist. Primo. He knows exactly how the energy system works. I fortunately came to that field with my brain cells from electronics and physics. It's like, this is a different conversation. But, if somebody doesn't have the eyes to see and the ears to hear, they don't understand that. So that started me on a track, a direction of pursuing everything I could find with the Aramaic. I ended up linking to, after spending some time working with the Aramaic, studying the Aramaic conceptual framework, I connected with this man who owned the Khabouris manuscript, an attorney. And we had been traveling parallel paths. He'd actually written a course called Emotional Maturity Instruction. And I was teaching a thing by that point called Lessons in Living. And we put our work together. It was specifically designed for the prison system, his emotional maturity. We've been traveling parallel paths around the Aramaic, and we put our work together and created a course called Laws of Living for the Prison. And it came totally and completely out of the Aramaic. That was just a little better than 40 years ago that I met him, started to work with him. And that's been my life's work since then. The 10 years prior to that, I was developing and working in this arena, but the Aramaic was really what opened and blossomed it for me. So that's how I came to become interested in and pursue the Aramaic tools. this man Yeshua had a whole cadre of tools. The most important one, and my take is, the reason why there is so much conflict, pain, and trauma on the planet is nobody knows how to forgive. And once pain or trauma enters a genetic bloodline, it's passed from generation to generation to generation to generation to generation. And if nobody knows how to remove it, it just keeps going. And when it keeps going, things get crazier. When they get crazier, it becomes more traumatic. When it becomes more traumatic, there's more pain to pass on to the next generation. This man Yeshua knew exactly, when you hear the statement, you must forgive from your heart the wrongs of your brother. That's not a bleeding heart statement, forgive from your heart. He's saying you have to go into your own unconscious and remove that which you're putting into your brain's image of your brother if you want to be free of your pain. You got to stop this projection game. You got to stop judging the world by its appearances, by the perceptions generated by your own mind, and get back to the truth. And, one of the most difficult things to do is to get back to the truth, because we have a belief system, it's been called the BS, and most people are going to stick with their BS. I don't care what you say. Don't tell me the truth. I got a story, and I'm sticking to my story. So that's kind of the history of how I became involved in this.
And where can I look at the translation? Is there a place, like a website, where I can look at it?
You can go to my website, whyagain.org, and you'll see a link to the Kabor's manuscript. There's a lot of stories there. There's some videos on YouTube around it. There's the story of the finding of the manuscript, and we've actually there's a book we've published called Enlightenment from the Aramaic. And that's what we've published so far from the Kabor's manuscript. There actually hasn't been any translation work done on the manuscripts since back in the 1970s. The project for translators ran out of money, and we've been working with just refining the tools that we have. I'm the director of the foundation. We don't have a big funding source to go back and start to do the next level of translation work. But we do have a book called Enlightenment, and basically the book is divided into 3 parts. There's a section, it's kind of an introduction to the manuscript, how it was found, that sort of thing. There's some select passages from the manuscript in English with keywords left in brackets in Aramaic. And then in the back, there's a 1st century Aramaic dictionary where you can go back and look at what did the Aramaic word for that mean? Just to give you an example or two. So, here's this man Yeshua says, you can deny me, but don't deny that which I came to connect you to, that power in you that I came to connect you to, which was called spirit. It's actually breath, but in Aramaic. But don't deny that.
It was
and
breath?
Pardon me?
It was breath?
Yeah. If you go to the Aramaic language and back in the Old Testament, you hear the creation story, and the Greeks tell us in their translations that the Creator sent out his spirit. Actually, in Aramaic, it was his breath. It's our direct link. Don't deny it. In other words, when you hold your breath, you're locking energy flow down and entering into energetic patterns that will ultimately kill you. So that's something that needs to be opened. So you want to keep that open and keep your connection there. So he says, you can deny that or me, but not that. I came to connect you. And then this is just one of my favorite examples of how badly the Greeks translated this. So in the Beatitudes, the first Beatitude, we hear them saying that it says, blessed are they who are in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. So here's a guy who comes to connect you to. So the first Beatitude, the Greeks translates, blessed are those who are poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom, the kingdom of heaven. In Aramaic, what that says is the first word in each of the Beatitudes, we're told it says, blessed are they, blessed are they, blessed are they, blessed are they. In Aramaic, the word is tuvehun. It's a 3-part word, and here's what it says. It says, a latent neural structure implanted by the Creator to guide you to happiness and well-being will become your conscious possession. You who, and then each of the Beatitudes is a set of instructions for how to maintain that. The first one doesn't say be poor in spirit. A fly speck on a piece of paper, jots and tittles. You've heard it say that the smallest letters are jots and tittles. A character, just a dot, changes the meaning of a word. So the word that they translated as home, or pardon me, as poor, is actually home. So it says, a latent neural structure implanted by the Creator to guide you to happiness and well-being becomes your conscious possession, you whose home is in the eternal forces from God. For yours will be the community of love. So if our home is in perception and we live in denial and we're blaming everybody else, we're never going to get there. I don't care whether people die or not. It's not a place to go. It's a state to be in. So you know, the mistranslation, just that one word, home being changed to poor. So somebody's trying to convince us we're supposed to be poor in this thing that Yeshua says you better stay connected there. Doesn't make any sense. So there's so many things that are just the Greeks, you know, if Yeshua sat in most sources where they purportedly are talking about him, if he sat in those places today, he'd say it's all Greek to me. Because it is. It's not. It's like there's been this whole substitution of Greek ideas put in his mouth, and it just doesn't make sense. So you want to have your home in the breath and in the eternal forces from the Creator. And then you will be connected to love. Yours will be a heavenly estate. The words, the kingdom of heaven, have got nothing to do with the place off in the sky that you go to after you die. The words, the kingdom of heaven, mean the community of love in Aramaic. So you want to stay to the community, connected to the community of love, you got to keep your breath open. You got to keep your connection to it. And that will open guidance systems in you where you will know exactly what you need to do next. So that's just one of my favorite mistranslations. Does that make sense?
Thank you, Michael, for sharing that. Would you like to share with us your love story with your wife, please?
Well, let's complete the questions that this gentleman's got first, and then let's go back to that.
Okay, thank you.
And it's a fun story. Yes. Actually, we met online. Go ahead.
So yeah, I wanted to know, do you do breath work?
Yes. I created a process called still point breathing. It's a way of using the breath to literally move your physiology into a superconductor state. In the Aramaic language, the word Satan does not mean some dude with a red suit, a tail, and a pitchfork. The word Satan means the resistor, one who misleads. You tell the average person that, you know, there's something they need to know or something they need to learn, and what they'll do is go into resistance, and then they'll tell you their lie, their mislead. They'll have a whole story about, no, this is the way it really is. So living in that state in Aramaic would be what's called trapped in Satan, living in Satan. And so getting free of that resistance, and the resistance happens by holding the breath, by locking the breath down. So there's a process I do teach. Actually, we've got a session on Saturday that we're doing. Once a month, we've got a still point and mind shifters and still point breathing club that we have. And once a month, we do a session on Saturday mornings at 11 o'clock Eastern time. It's usually 2 or 3 hours. And then on the following Tuesday evening at 7 o'clock Eastern time, we do a second session with that. So we're doing a mind shifters and still point breathing session this Saturday and the following Tuesday. If anybody's interested, again, you could drop Jeannie an email at Jeannie, Jeanie at whyagain.org if you're interested in joining us. And it's a process where you can register for just one session, or we have a package of 3, or there's an annual, where you get 12 sessions. So yeah, we do teach on an ongoing basis now, the still point breathing process online. It's something that, it's something I developed about 40 years ago, and I've never taught it unless it's been in person until this whole COVID thing happened. And during an intensive we did recently, we tried it. I wasn't sure it was going to work online, but it worked beautifully. And so we have started to do that on a regular basis.
Are there parts of Kriya Yoga breathing in this technique?
No.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. It's not there. I've never studied any other kind of yogic breath or anything like that. And so it doesn't relate to anything that I know of that anybody else has ever done. And I've had people who've come to me who've done rebirthing or have done different, all kinds of different breath work. And universally, it's been, wow, I've never seen anything as powerful as this. So it's a way of using the breath to undo the veil, the barrier. You know, when they said the veil of the temple must be rent in twain, you know, Churchianity says that was a purple curtain in the church. You know, at the moment of death, the curtain tore into. No, the temple is this body. The veil is the barrier between the subconscious and the unconscious. That's got to be opened. That barrier, that veil is built by holding the breath. You watch people in trauma and they shut their breath off. That barrier is opened by utilizing the breath properly. And what happens is when you hit the point where that energy is really moving with the breath, you hit a superconductor state, and whatever your body is ready to process, whatever, whether it's genetic, you know, 10 generations old, or from in utero or childhood or whatever, those energies start, you go into a superconductor state and you just start to move through things, high speed, fast forward. It's a powerful process. And I don't know of any other kind of breathing like it, or nothing else that I could compare it to. I've walked, I don't even know how many hundreds of people through it. I've never had anybody say, oh, that's just like. It doesn't compare with anything else I know of.
And how do I get there to the session? Again?
Well, if you're interested in joining us, there are 2 videos to watch, and one of them is about the Mind Shifter tool, and there's a list of mind shifters that we would send to you once you register. And so that would all be done by email, and then you'd be sent a link to Zoom, and we do it on Zoom. And again, it'd be Saturday morning at 10 o'clock. So if you drop Jeannie an email, JEANIE at whyagain.org, and tell her you want to join us, we'll communicate, get you registered. And basically it's set up a single session. And again, it includes the Saturday morning and the Tuesday evening. A single session is $150. If you do a package of 3 sessions, they're $125 each. If you register for a year, it's $900 for 12 sessions. And if you want to try, you know, just do 1 session, or if you want to do 3 and you decide to upgrade, we'll prorate it so that the whole process is discounted. So drop Jeannie an email if you're interested in participating.
Definitely, I will.
By the way, my book is, I don't know if you know this, but it's online in German, free. You can download it from our website.
What's the name of it?
Why is this happening to me again?
Okay, yeah.
If you just go to our website and there's a picture of the book, click on the book cover, it'll take you into, just drill down until you come to the download for German, and it's there free. I don't know what the quality of it is. I don't speak German, but we had some students in Germany that were like, man, this is life-changing. We want to translate your book. And so. It's actually there in about a dozen. It's in Farsi, it's in Spanish, it's in Dutch. We've got somebody working on Polish. It's not in Polish yet. Part of it's in Thai. Anyway, there's several different translations, and they're all free online. English as well. You can download it free.
Do you ever, sorry, Julian, do you ever do free demonstrations of this breathing technique, Michael?
It's not something you just go, oh, well, let's take 10 minutes and do a demonstration. No, it's a whole process.
Okay.
I mean, we're talking about getting down to some serious work with this.
Okay, thank you so much. You really don't know what the big synchronicities it is right now to hear this, because actually my family is big into Christianity, but it's like they take it too literal, you know, especially my brother. And I already noticed like there's a different meaning of it. And I always tell him like, look into the other books that are maybe not in the Bible, and you will see that there's a different meaning kinda to it. Not kinda, there literally is. And geh mal raus jetzt mal.
You've got to have the eyes to see and the ears to hear. Go back to Yeshua. He says his real work is only for those who have the eyes to see and the ears to hear. Now that, pretty much everybody in his audience, we can, I think, assume had what we call physical eyes and ears. What he was saying is you've got to have the brain cells, like, and when the brain cells shift into what the actual meaning is, then it's like, whoa. And an easy example of that, in an earlier session, and I talked about this just earlier today, we defined the word sin. Over the last 50 years of people doing my work, this is probably the single piece of information that people come forward and, I meet them, I'm in Barbados and somebody's walking down and say, oh, you're Michael Rice. And, yeah, okay. Oh man, when I was at your workshop 25 years ago, you said, and it's the word sin. Now, the Greek sin, terrible, evil, awful, bad, you're a sinner, you're going to hell, all that crap has got nothing to do with the word sin in Aramaic. So this would be having the eyes to see and the ears to hear what Yeshua was actually talking about. Again, in Aramaic, it's an archery term. When you fired at the target, if you miss the bullseye, the scorekeeper yelled sin. All it means is you're off the mark. Now, it's true, the wages of sin is death. If I take an energy that's off the mark and I put it into tissue, I begin tissue deterioration. Enough tissue deterioration, enough energies that are off the mark, and I'm going to die. I mean, that's accurate. It's not a threat. It's just how physiology works. That's what I say. This man was a physiologist. He said, this is how it works. So until you have the eyes to see and the ears to hear, it doesn't make any sense. The Greek terror and trauma of sin to just, it's off the mark. I think I'll do some correction here. And the whole text is rife with idioms. If you don't know what an idiom means, you can't translate the idiom. I mean, translators look at an idiom and they don't have any idea what it means. And so what they put in his mouth is senseless. We're looking to restore the accurate teaching and the sensibility of it. And I use an example of, let's imagine that we bring someone over from China. We have a young lady from China here. He doesn't speak any English and I don't speak any Chinese, but I know that you're, young lady, you're the best translator of English into Chinese and Chinese to English in the world. And I know you've got an extra room in your house. And, and I inform you, this guy wants to come over. Would you mind picking him at the airport? Could you have him stay at your house? And would you bring him to the workshops? And yeah, hey, I'd love to. And, we do a week of workshops. We go for lunch a couple times. Great guy. We have a great time together. We have a blast. And at the end of the week, you're getting ready to take him back. And I say, by the way, I'd like this man to really know how I feel about him. So would you tell him that I think he's really cool? And you turn to him in your best Chinese and say, Michael thinks you've got a low body temperature. You translated my words perfectly, but you didn't say a word about what I meant. This guy's going to be confused. Who does he think he is? Low body temperature. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. That's an idiom. The whole Aramaic language is rife with idioms. Until you have the brain cells for it, it just doesn't make sense. And so what we're looking to do is restore sensibility to every word that's there. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes total sense. That's what I was talking. That's what I was telling to my brother especially. I was saying, he was like talking to me, saying, he's always saying like, you have to look at the different translations, and he's only looking at German, and
right.
And he's like, and I'm like, yeah, but if you look at the translations, it's not real, because the Aramaic language is so deep. It has so many different meanings for words. You have to look at the original. And if you don't look at the original, at least try to look at the Greek, and then you will also see that it's totally different. And yeah, it was really hard to convince him about that. And I was like, already, I was letting God. I was like, bring me someone, show me someone who can show me this. And now
you're ready for it. Awesome. Well, delighted to be on the team. Delighted to be on the team.
I appreciate it a lot.
All right. Well, any other thoughts?
Michael, do you believe?
Wait a minute. Let me just finish this conversation, and we'll jump back with you.
Any last thoughts? Yeah. Actually, is it right that the Bible is like the whole story of Jesus is like symbol for the human body, because I know that he was also like crucified on Golgotha, or Golgotha, I don't know what it is in English, and that's like the city of the skull. So he
Right.
was like crucified on the skull. And he was also 33 years old, and there's 33 vertebrae in the spine. So yeah, what do you know about that?
I think there are a lot of symbolic meanings that we can read into it and get deeper understanding from. And there are, lots of theories and teachings in that regard. What my work has been, originally I was in the field of electronics, and if you designed or built or repaired a piece of electronic equipment, really didn't matter what your philosophy was. It had to work when it came off the bench on the other end. And so my work in this regard has been, how do we get this down to something that gives people the tools with which to change their lives? And that's what my focus has been, in particular, the forgiveness process. And, it took me almost 35 years working full time with the Aramaic to start to understand what it really meant, that it was nothing to do. I'd been brainwashed in the culture too. Yeah, let them off the hook, let them off the hook, forgive them, forgive them, forgive them. No, that's not what it is. It's pardon them if you choose, but go inside yourself and remove the root of your pain. That's forgiveness.
Mm-hmm.
And most people are crucifying themselves continuously by refusing to do that and holding on to their pain. It's time for us to go into our own desert. It's time for us to wake up to who we are and to function out of the truth of who we are and remove everything that is unlike who we are and what we really are. And the truth is, again, hold a newborn and you'll discover, if you tap into the essence of newborn, that there it is, pure, present, active love. And that's what each and every one of you and I are. And before we can start to really function as that, we need to move the blocks out of the way. So that's the core of the work that I've developed over the last 50 years.
I understand.
Cool.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, really. I guess
You're most welcome.
See you in the future.
Okay, delighted. Take care. Blessings.
See you too.
All right, young lady, you had a question.
Yes, I have 2 questions now. First, I'd like to hear your love story with your wife, because I always want to hear everybody's love stories. Okay. And secondly, do you believing in Christianity based on your interpretation, your understanding, is the only way to enlightenment, or there are many different, or everyone's journey is different? There are many paths to enlightenment.
I think there are many paths, and of course, everybody wants to proclaim their path the best, and the only, and all of that. And no, actually, if you go to the Aramaic, where the Greeks translated as Yeshua was the only begotten Son of God in Aramaic, the word is first begotten. He was, in this culture, one of the first to wake up to the truth of, oh, here we are. We're designed to function as love. Okay, that's the first begotten. And so, no, I don't believe that he would ever proclaim an exclusive to that. In Aramaic, there's an idiom when he says, I am the way, the truth, and the life. Nobody comes to the Father except through me. People want to proclaim him, ego him, as you got to go to him. But in Aramaic, that's an idiom for, he says, I and the Father are one. If you've seen me, you've seen the Father. That was an idiom for their connection. And a man and his teaching are one in exactly the same way. So when he says, I am the way, the truth, and life, he's saying, you can't get there unless you do your inner work, and here are the tools for doing it. So yes, this is the way. It wasn't about him as an ego being. So that would be my offering. As far as my story with my wife, we've been together 18 years now. We met on eharmony.com. I had set up a profile and went online and filled there. I was in a place where I was serious about getting into a real relationship. And that weekend, my wife just happened to be sick and at home. And she accidentally came across eHarmony, and they had a free weekend pass kind of thing, a special for the weekend. So she signed up for it. We were introduced, and we, played chess online, watched movies online for, I forget now exactly, a couple of weeks before we actually met in person. And once we met in person, well, actually before that, that was the last time either of us looked at or dated anyone else. And we are delightfully together in an eternal committed relationship.
Do you believe the concept of twin flames?
I've heard different interpretations. I'm not sure exactly what that means, so I wouldn't say I believe or disbelieve. It's not something I've ever focused on or gotten into.
Right. How old were you when you met your wife?
Eternal.
How old were you?
Eternal.
Okay.
Same age as I am now, eternal.
Okay, thank you for sharing, Michael.
Delighted. Thank you. All right. Well, Ms. Yinka, what do you think?
Yeah, I think that's the end of the questions. And what time are we on? Yeah, 10:47. Yeah. We might bring it to a close. Everyone's complete. Do you want to have the final words, Michael?
Well, I'm just honored and delighted to be here with you and being part of this process. My inclination is one of the things that we teach in our Healing Through Relationships workshop, and I'm looking down at my phone so that I can open it up on my screen at this moment. One of the things that we teach is a commitment. And what I'd like to do is I'd like to close by sharing the commitment with you. And I actually just edited it recently. It's something that's been about 35 years in development, and it's still being edited. And so let me just share this with you. So here's my commitment to you. I promise to trust you enough to tell you the truth and to be true to you, to always engage in just and fair behavior with you. I commit to always being sweetness in your life, to nurture you daily and treat you lovingly, gently, and with respect in my thoughts, in my words, and in my actions, whether I'm in your presence or not. In every interaction, I commit to affection for you, to look for and acknowledge the highest and best in you. And as I surrender to love, our true nature, I will use only voice tones that reflect my deep caring for you. My connection to love, our source, gratitude for my relationship with you, and our serenity will always be more important than any issue. I open my being to embrace you in my love. I open to be embraced in your love. If anything unlike love comes up, I will hold this in my heart and listen as I learn to speak, experience, and be responsible and forgive my own realities. I'm here for and with you. I promise to speak only truth to you as I keep communication open and keep love conscious, active, and present as we heal, celebrate life, and grow together. Thank you for joining us tonight. Blessings.
Thank you, Michael. That was lovely.
Thank you, Michael.
And
You are
thank you,
most welcome and deserving.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Michael.
Honored and
Thank
delighted.
you so much. Thank you.
Thank you
There's
so
lots
much.
of thank yous in the
Thanks,
message for you.
Michael.
All right.
Thank you, Michael. Thanks very much.
Appreciate you.
And thank you everyone for joining and the questions that you asked and opening up this space for us all.
And we'll look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks.
Thank you.
Yes.
Do you come here every 2 weeks?
Yes.
The second and fourth Thursday of the month at 8:30 London time, 3:30 East Coast time in America.
I will look forward to seeing you because I'm new to this group. So I look forward to seeing you again. Thank you very much.
Delighted. We'll be here. Second and fourth Thursday. All right.
Brilliant.
Blessings.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And anyone that joins the 5 a.m. club on the Thursday mornings, every Thursday morning, do the worksheet and we put it into practice and just go through it together.
Is it the same worksheet that you put up today on the WhatsApp group?
Yeah, is it that?
Okay.
Yeah, whatever I added. Yeah, did I add it to the WhatsApp group?
You added something. I downloaded it, but I haven't.
Yeah,
I didn't look at
Michael's worksheet. What he and the next session that Michael comes to, he'll take us through it too. But every Thursday we have a go at it.
Yeah, the step by step. Here's how you forgive.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
All right.
On the Thursday 5 a.m. we go through the one that's in the book, but Michael will take us through a deeper one when he comes.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you so much.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
Bye. Stop recording.
Good night. Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.